But I would argue that the concept of muwatana, which is citizenship, the idea that we are not a minority community in the ideal state of Western understanding of citizenry, that we are actually fully enfranchised citizens and have all the rights and responsibilities that go with that citizenship. That has to be inculcated into our youth and into our communities. I think the older generation is, they're excused in my estimation because they came from a very different background, but the younger generation really doesn't have an excuse. I think it's very important that they recognize the importance of fully integrating at that level, because in my country, for instance, in the United States, especially at local government, you can enact radical changes in your local governments. You can ban alcohol, you can ban gambling, you can do a lot of things. And Muslims, and I agree with Dr. Ramadan fully about this, that Muslims need to be productive members of the community. They really need to be engaging the community fully. And those people, one of the biggest problems that we have is the concept of Al-Walaa and AlBaraa, the idea of there's a certain segment of the Muslim community that teaches this idea that any allegiance you have to have allegiance and enmity, which means allegiance to Islam alone and enmity to anything other than Islam, and therefore to vote is an act of kufr in a non-Muslim state. And we have people here that get public airspace to actually expound these ideas on a regular basis. These ideas are sectarian and a very, very marginalized minority view in Islamic history. Allegiance to a state is not kufr by any means. And Sheikh Abdullah bin Bayya argues that the classical formation of what was called Dar al-Harb, Dar al-Islam, and then Dar al-Ahad or Muwada'a, which is, those were the three classical formations: the abode of war, the abode of peace, which was the Islamic world, and then the abode where you had treaties with the people. He argues that there's a new abode, which is what he calls the Darul Maqam or Dar al-Muwatana, which is the abode of citizenship, which is where Muslims are citizens. And a Muslim can technically become a prime minister or at least a president in the United States, and that was argued 200 years ago. It was actually in the constitutional debates, one of the issues raised is that if there were not religious tests, a Muslim could eventually be elected president in the United States. That was argued 200 years ago by the Founding Fathers. And the argument was overridden because Ireton argued that if the American people elected a Muslim, it would be for one of two reasons. The Americans had all become Muslims, and then that was their democratic prerogative. And he said that's highly unlikely. And then he said the other would be that they found in a Muslim all the virtues that they wanted to lead their society, and in that case, again, it was their prerogative. So they actually voted early on based on a Muslim issue. And so Barack Obama has a Muslim grandmother, and he's president of the United States. His grandmother was there in hijab sitting next to him at the inauguration.